The Chinese government, Viagra,
Hello there.
peeing contests, and economic growth. All things that tie into this organism's crazy jump from completely solitary to media superstar. Imagine you're a zookeeper in charge of saving an entire species from going completely extinct. Pretty important job, right? There's just one problem. The animal you're trying to save doesn't seem to care if it goes extinct at all. In fact, you're surprised the species has lasted this long. This is the harsh reality of biologists responsible for growing the struggling panda populations. But why are these adorable bears so difficult to maintain, and why are they going extinct in the first place? Let's find out.
This way a little bit. Which might smell, but once that food is in there, pupils heavily dilate.
Pandas are native to only a few mountain ranges in southern China. This means that their habitat is incredibly limited, and when biologists want to successfully introduce one back into the wild, they must find a way to ship it across the world and then up an entire mountain. The only pandas in the United States are at the Atlanta Zoo, and they're on loan from the Chinese government. The Atlanta Zoo reports that it pays an annual loan fee for each panda, which goes into massive Chinese conservation efforts. From the Atlanta Zoo's website, they report that to date, it is responsible for more than $10 million going towards Chinese efforts. Part of these funds are going directly towards what caused the panda's significant drop in population rates in the first place: habitat loss. China is funding massive reforestation efforts, hoping to establish a stronger habitat range for these animals. Originally, the largest threat to a panda habitat was logging. Starting in 1978, China's economy was seeing rapid growth. In fact, every year from 1978 to 2007 saw at least a 10% growth in their economy. The race was on. China needed materials to keep up with growth, which led to rampant logging efforts. Eventually, this pushed into higher and higher elevations, limiting pandas' range and their ability to access food. However, in 1999, China banned all logging efforts in areas deemed panda habitats in an effort to save them from extinction. Now pandas face a different challenge: tourism. Tourist facilities and individuals entering the forest now threaten to disturb what little pandas remain in the wild. Okay, so if pandas are struggling in the wild, they must be doing better in captivity, right? Well, that's not totally the case. If you're a believer in saving a species through captive breeding, then yes, pandas absolutely need to be in captivity, but it's not that simple of a problem to answer. Let's explore why that is. First, pandas only have the ability to get pregnant 1 to 3 days out of the entire year. That's an incredibly small window to hit. Not to mention, when a female panda gives birth, it's not to a litter. It's normally to one single panda. Very rarely, they'll have twins. The only other bears with this small of a litter size are also struggling: the polar bear. All other bear species have the ability to have up to 4 or 5 cubs at a time, giving them a large advantage. If a panda wanted to have 5 cubs, statistically, it would take her 10 years. That's an incredibly long time. That's slower than some of your families have grown.
Well, what if we put the males and females together all year?
Well, again, it's not that simple. It is incredibly difficult to tell male and female pandas apart. Their genitals are very similar, which has already been the result of failed breeding efforts on a national scale. It's incredibly difficult to get pandas to successfully breed in captivity. But even if their efforts are successful, we're not out of the woods. Female pandas possess the ability to reabsorb their fetuses. That means that even if everything goes right, the female panda can choose if she doesn't want to have the baby. Breeding pandas is a frustrating endeavor that can take many years to have one successful venture, not to mention how expensive it can be. So how did these animals ever survive on their own without human intervention? Well, once pandas reach adulthood, they have almost zero natural predation. The biggest threat to any panda in the world is us. But pandas also act much differently in the wild than they do in captivity. When a female is ready to mate, or just before, she'll begin drawing in males with her scent. She will then climb a tree and sit at the top of it, screaming. Male pandas will compete for her attention by having a literal pissing contest. Male pandas will see who can urinate the highest up the tree with a variety of poses, including handstands, and then the female will pick a winner. Due to the difficulty of getting to this step in the first place, pandas will copulate more than 40 times. This outlines an odd challenge biologists have when dealing with captive pandas. These mating rituals are believed to be learned, not entirely inherent. Most baby pandas in the wild will view one breeding season before reaching sexual maturity, allowing them time to learn how to conduct themselves successfully. However, in captivity, this doesn't happen. Pandas aren't able to conduct their natural rituals, which makes captive breeding even harder. To combat this, some zookeepers have gone as far as giving male pandas Viagra and showing pandas videos of other pandas conducting themselves. However, most pandas born in captivity are a result of artificial insemination, which has single-handedly been the biggest boost to the captive panda populations. When we look at panda conservation efforts, historically, a large focus has been on breeding pandas in captivity. With how difficult this process is, it's very easy to come to the conclusion that captive breeding might not be the panda's best course to save their species. So why does it seem like such a high priority? Well, don't get us wrong. Any panda being born at this point is a good thing. But these places directly profited from captive pandas being born. With news coverage, increased attendance, merchandising, it's easy to see when looking at things through a capitalistic lens why this was the bulk of our efforts in America. However, we applaud the Atlanta Zoo for paying to help reestablish the pandas' natural habitats, even though they are forced to do so. If you're looking for more videos on exotic wildlife, check out the rest of our channel, or head to our sanctuary website where you can see all of our residents and even one of the only hybrid laligers in the world. And as always, thanks for caring.